I never believed in coincidences until the night I discovered that some things are better left buried in the dark corners of the internet. What started as just another boring shift at the quick stop became the most terrifying experience of my life, one that still haunts my dreams 3 months later. If you've seen the grainy footage that went viral last November, the one labeled Convenience Store Chaos, you probably think you know what happened. You don't. The truth is far more disturbing than anything captured on that security camera. My name is Jake, and until recently, I worked the graveyard shift at a 24-hour convenience store in Warrington, a forgotten neighborhood where the streetlights flicker more than they shine, and the police response time is measured in hours, not minutes. The Quick Stop sat on the corner of 5th and Maple like a beacon of fluorescent desperation, its buzzing lights attracting all the wrong kinds of moths. I'd been working there for 8 months, mainly because it was the only job that would hire someone with my background. The pay was terrible, the customers were worse, and the owner, Mr. Chen, was perpetually absent, leaving us to deal with whatever chaos walked through those glass doors. My only regular coworker was Marcus, a philosophy student who quoted Nietzsche while restocking energy drinks and somehow made minimum wage sound like an intellectual pursuit. The store itself was a study in controlled decay. Half the security cameras were broken. The refrigeration units wheezed like dying animals, and the cash register dated back to the Clinton administration. But it was the basement that always gave me the creeps. Mr. Chen had told us it was off limits, just storage space, he claimed, but I'd caught glimpses of it when making late-night inventory runs. Strange metal containers lined the walls, each one labeled with symbols I didn't recognize, and there was always this faint chemical smell that reminded me of a hospital morgue. It was a Tuesday night in November when everything changed. Marcus had called in sick, leaving me alone with just the usual cast of characters. Tommy, the drunk, who came in every hour for another beer, Mrs. Rodriguez, who bought lottery tickets with religious fervor, and the occasional trucker looking for caffeine and conversation. Around 2 a.m. during the dead hour, when even the city seems to hold its breath, I was restocking cigarettes behind the counter when I heard the basement door creak open. My blood went cold. I'd locked the door myself at the beginning of my shift, company policy, and I was the only one in the store. "Hello," I called out, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. Silence. I grabbed the baseball bat we kept under the register and slowly made my way toward the back of the store. The basement door stood ajar, and that chemical smell was stronger now, mixed with something else, something organic and rotten that made my stomach lurch. That's when I saw him, a man in his 50s, wearing a stained lab coat over khaki pants, was climbing up from the basement, carrying a small metal briefcase. His hair was disheveled, his eyes were wild, and when he saw me, he smiled, The kind of smile that makes your skin crawl because it implies something sinister. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, his voice calm despite his appearance. "Neither are you," I replied, gripping the bat tighter. "This is private property. I'm calling the police." He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "The police? Oh, son, they can't help you with what's coming, what I've done, what I've unleashed." He looked down at the briefcase, and for a moment, his expression shifted from manic to horrified. "I thought I could control it. 30 years of research, and I thought I finally understood the threshold between life and something else." Before I could respond, he pushed past me and headed for the front door. "Lock the basement," he said over his shoulder. "Lock it and pray they don't remember the way up." Then he was gone, vanishing into the November night like a ghost. I should have called the police. I should have locked the store and waited for morning. Instead, driven by a mixture of curiosity and stupidity that I now deeply regret, I descended into the basement. The chemical smell was overwhelming down there, like ammonia mixed with copper pennies. The storage room I'd glimpsed before was transformed. The metal containers were open, their contents a thick, dark liquid that seemed to move on its own, pooled on the concrete floor. In the center of the room sat a makeshift laboratory. Computers, medical equipment, and dozens of glass vials filled with substances that I couldn't identify and looked strange. On one of the computers, a video was playing on a loop. Security footage from various locations, hospitals, morgues, funeral homes. In each clip, people who should have been dead were moving, walking, but wrong somehow. Their movements were jerky, puppet-like, and their faces were slack and empty, as if someone else was wearing their skin. I found a journal next to the computer, filled with cramped handwriting. Day 847. The serum is finally stable. The subjects maintain motor function for up to 72 hours post-mortem. But something is wrong. They remember, not memories exactly, but echoes. They're drawn to the living, especially to pain and fear. They feed on it somehow. Day 850. They've learned to mimic speech. Basic words, mostly. But there's intelligence there, alien and hungry. I think they're trying to communicate with something. Each other or something bigger. Day 863. The basement subjects have escaped their containment. I can hear them moving in the walls. They know I'm here. They know I made them. And I think they're calling others. The journal entries continued for weeks, becoming increasingly erratic and desperate. The last entry was dated just hours ago. They're coming, all of them. The serum has spread further than I anticipated, through the water system, through contact, through things I never considered. Warrington is the epicenter now, ground zero. God help us all. As I finished reading, I heard it, a sound like fingernails on concrete, coming from somewhere in the walls around me. Then another sound joined it, and another, until the basement filled with a symphony of scraping, scratching, and something that may have been whispers. The lights flickered and went out. I ran upstairs faster than I've ever moved in my life, slamming the basement door behind me and turning every lock I could find. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely operate my phone, but I managed to call 911. 911, what's your emergency? This is Jake Morris at the Quick Stop on 5th and Maple. There's something in our basement. Sir, are you being robbed? No, listen to me. There's something wrong here. These people, they're not... The line went dead. Outside, Warrington was waking up, but not the way neighborhoods usually do. Through the store's windows, I could see figures moving in the darkness, shambling, jerky movements that reminded me of the security footage. They were coming from all directions, crawling out of storm drains, emerging from abandoned buildings, some even clawing their way out of the ground in Warrington Cemetery across the street. But the worst part wasn't how they moved or where they came from. It was their faces. I recognized some of them. Mrs. Patterson from down the block, who died of cancer last month. Joey Rodriguez, the teenager who'd overdosed in August. They all shared the same expression, blank, hungry, and impossibly aware. They surrounded the store slowly, deliberately, as if they had all the time in the world, and maybe they did. The first one to reach the door was Mr. Hendricks, my old high school math teacher who passed away in September. He pressed his face against the glass and smiled the same empty smile, then began to speak in a voice like rustling leaves. Jake Morrison, we remember you. We remember everyone. Let us in, Jake. Let us share what we've learned. More voices joined his, a chorus of the dead, all speaking my name, all asking to be let in. They didn't try to break the glass, not yet. They just stood there, waiting, as if they knew something I didn't. That's when I noticed the serum. A thin stream of that dark liquid was seeping under the basement floor, spreading across the store floor like spilled ink. Wherever it touched, the fluorescent lights dimmed and the air grew thick and cold. I tried to mop it up, but it kept coming, more and more, until I realized the basement must be completely flooded. The dead people outside began to move again, but differently now, more coordinated. They formed a perfect circle around the store, and then they began to chant. Not words exactly, but a sound that seemed to vibrate in my bones and make my teeth ache. That's when I understood what the scientist had done. He hadn't just brought the dead back to life. He'd connected them to something else, something that existed in the spaces between life and death, and now it was using them to spread, to grow, to feed on the fear and the pain of the living. The chanting grew louder, and the serum on the floor began to glow with a sickly phosphorescence. I backed away from it, but there was nowhere to go. The basement door was behind me. The circle of the dead was outside, and the serum was slowly but surely covering every inch of the floor. Then the lights went out completely. In the darkness, I heard footsteps, not the shuffling gait of the reanimated, but the steady, measured pace of someone very much alive. A flashlight clicked on, illuminating the face of a police officer. "Jake Morrison?" he said, his voice strangely calm given the circumstances. "Thank God," I gasped. "Officer, there's something terrible happening here. These people, they're..." "Dead?" he finished. "Yes, we know. We've been monitoring Dr. Reeves' experiment for quite some time." The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. "You knew about this?" He nodded. "Warrington was chosen specifically for this trial. Isolated, low income, limited media attention, the perfect testing ground for Project Lazarus. Unfortunately, Dr. Reeves exceeded his parameters. People are dead because of you." "People were already dead, Mr. Morrison. We simply found a use for them, though I admit the psychological effects on the living were unexpected." What happened next isn't in any official report. The officer, if he was really an officer, made a phone call, and within minutes, black SUVs surrounded the store. Men in hazmat suits entered through the back, carrying equipment I didn't recognize. They worked quickly and efficiently, cleaning up the serum, removing the laboratory equipment, and doing something to the basement that involved a lot of bright lights and chemical smells. The dead people outside simply vanished. Not all at once, but gradually, as if someone was turning down a dimmer switch on their existence. By dawn, it was over. The official story was a gas leak that caused hallucinations and temporary mass hysteria. The security footage was confiscated for evidence, though the only clip that ever surfaced was a grainy, 30-second snippet that showed what looked like a typical convenience store robbery. I was offered a substantial sum of money to sign a non-disclosure agreement and relocate to another state. I took the money. What choice did I have? But I couldn't bring myself to leave Warrington. Not yet. 3 months later, I still drive by the Quick Stop sometimes. It's boarded up now, with a for lease sign that's been there since December. The basement has been sealed with concrete, and they've planted grass over the cemetery across the street, where too many graves were disturbed that night. But sometimes, when the moon is dark and the fog rolls in from the river, I swear I can still smell that chemical scent in the air. And sometimes I think I see figures moving in the abandoned buildings, watching and waiting for someone else to dig too deep into things that should stay buried. Dr. Reeves was never found. The official report says he died in a car accident 3 states away. But I know better. I think he's still out there in some other forgotten neighborhood, conducting some other terrible experiment on people who can't fight back. The thing that haunts me most isn't the memory of that night or even the knowledge of what the government is willing to do to its own citizens. It's the journal entry I never told anyone about. The one I found tucked inside the computer keyboard as they were taking everything away. The serum doesn't just animate the dead, it connects them to something vast and patient and hungry, something that's been waiting in the dark spaces of the world for someone foolish enough to open the door. We didn't create the dead, Jake. We just gave them a voice, and now that voice is spreading one forgotten neighborhood at a time. If you're reading this, it means you survived. Congratulations! But survival is just the beginning. You've seen behind the curtain now. You know the truth, and the truth, Jake, has a way of following you home. I never told anyone about that note, just like I'm sure you'll never tell anyone about this story. After all, who would believe it? And maybe that's all for the best. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. But every night, as I lock my doors and I check my windows, I wonder what other experiments are out there. What other neighborhoods have been chosen as testing grounds for things that should never see the light of day? And sometimes, in the darkest hours before dawn, I think I can hear them calling my name. I hope you enjoyed this twisted tale. I had such fun creating it for you. If you made it this far, I'm so glad you're enjoying my tales. If you're inspired to leave a comment or a like, I'd be thrilled. Until the next story, have a frightfully fun day and see you soon.